What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Meet the Zor. Today we are talking max strength fitness. Coming up next. All right, Jeff, I've now listened to your story on video, but now I'm going to ask it in real life. But I'm going to put a little bit of a twist in it because I'd like to start off with understanding what your franchise journey is. So when I say, how did you accidentally fall into franchising? Share as much or as little as you want to back up that story.
Sure. The first business book I ever read getting into business, which was about 20 years ago now, was The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And for those of you who haven't read it, it's about putting systems and processes in place in your business as if you were going to scale it to become a franchise. Because if you don't have those systems and processes in place, you truly own a job instead of owning a business. So from the beginning, I had the end in mind as if I wanted to franchise this business. So for it to be scalable and to be that position, we always had to think of the end in mind and put systems and processes in place. So from the very beginning, we always documented everything. And I always knew that I wanted to help as many people become as strong as they can in every aspect of their life. That's what I truly believe I was put on this earth to do. And I'm only one guy. So in order for me to do that, I needed to have, as we call them, life transformers, an army of life transformers to build this. And so I always knew when I started my first studio that it would multiply into multiple corporate studios, but then franchising was the vehicle I wanted to choose moving forward to expand.
Okay, so you get unit one going. How did you only have one unit when you decided to franchise?
No, we had actually two going into 3 units. So we opened up our first unit 17 years ago in 2004. So we've been in business for quite a while. So it's not like we're new to business. I mean, we've been doing this for almost 20 years. So I opened up my first studio then, and then in 2017, I opened up my second studio. And then just last year, we opened up our third corporate studio, and that was in the middle of launching our franchise. So we have 3 corporate-owned studios in the Cleveland, Ohio area.
How many franchisees do you guys have now?
Currently, we have 5. We just launched and opened our first one this past February in Niceville, Florida. So we have 5 franchisees with 11 territories awarded because most of our franchisees are multi-unit owners.
Yep, that makes sense. Okay, so 17 years ago, is that when you read E-Myth? And on unit 1, you're putting the processes in place?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yep.
Okay, so get unit 2 going. You know you're going to open up 3. You start now officially going through the process of becoming a franchisor. Where were your expectations missed and where have they been met when you went through the process of going through selecting a consultant, I assume, and legal to help you get to this stage?
Yeah, so I've always tried to surround myself with people who have been there and done that where I want to go in the industry. So I have a lot of mentors and coaches that are in the franchise space that really helped me expedite a lot of the pain, if you will, and get through the learning curve. And so when we first started launching our franchise, we used a lot of the portals to get leads. So it was like Franchise Gator and some of the other ones. And they were horrific. They might have been good back in the day, but they were not anymore. So then I said, there's got to be a better way. And I didn't know what I didn't know at the time, but then we found the world of FSOs. And so we partnered early on with Franchise Fastlane. And at the time, Franchise Fastlane wouldn't take us on as a brand because we were emerging, but they developed a new program called Carpool. And so what the uniqueness of was they would take on an emerging brand from 0 to 10 units and instill their whole discovery process, and then on the administrative back end, do territory checks, and then give us a tried and proven system for when somebody raises their hand, they're interested, all the way into our what we call a confirmation day, or people call it discovery day, and then signing the franchise agreement. And they also have great connections with all of the franchise broker consultant networks. So they put us into a lot of those. And that's really what's been driving our sales, if you will, from our franchisees, is developing relationships with consultants and brokers.
I appreciate that. I'm going to give a few comments on that because I think it's important. Sure. When I watched your video, the story is not about the widget that you happen to be in. It's about the pain and grief that you had to deal with as a human being that
Sure.
still drives some of the business decisions that you're making now.
Yeah.
Not that this is about me. I wrote a book that the premise is that every form of greatness comes from some sort of pain. And it's about recognizing how you turn that pain into fuel. And you have an example. There's a seed being born when you went through your mom or your wife. And so you've gone through issues that have raise this up.
Yeah.
When I land on your website, obviously that video's there, but part of the reason why, in my opinion, maybe organic hasn't taken off yet is because you're selling business versus culture. And what you talk about in that video is going to be so important to where you go as a business, because unfortunately and fortunately, a broker network is going to sell based on who pays the highest amount of commission. And so my issue has always been there's a disconnect between the human story and the real story. And therefore, it's up to the candidate who is entrusting a coach to cut through the bullshit and land in a brand that makes sense. And so when I land on your site, it feels so business-like, but I like it says transforming lives, but I think there's something so powerful there that broker networks will be deeply important for aligning you to people that are like, here's how much money I have, I'm passionate about X, match me with something. But then beyond it, like I think there's something greater here than being a broker network. But I understand as an emerging franchisor, you try the portals, you're like, I don't get anything. Organically is not going yet because you only have 3 locations, so the spread's not great. But anyway, I'm saying that because I think your journey is this today, but as you shift to the culture behind this business model, that the widget happens to be fitness or wellness, I think it could take off. Any comments on that?
Yeah, and I agree 100%. And, we've just been trying to do everything we can just to get our name out there. So we started in the broker networks, but we will put a lot of effort into going in organic search and telling that story, into getting out into just the vast universe of people who want to leave corporate and come into the fitness niche, and telling our story and our culture and the passion behind, where that seed was planted when my mom died when I was 5. And then fast forward, and my wife tragically passed away 3 years ago, who was my biggest cheerleader and wanted to see this be successful. So all of those stories were told. That's the first video we show when we have our confirmation day with our prospective franchisees, because at the end of the day, this is a passion project for me, and it's my life's mission to help people become the strongest versions of themselves. And I want other people that want to buy into that passion as well.
That's the statement. My life mission is, because you have 2 customers as a franchisor. You have 2 customers. You have your customer at the unit level, and you have your franchisees. And most franchise brands don't understand that they actually have 2 businesses when they choose a franchising. But what you just said, like, let me as the buyer see that you're going to take me on a journey of transforming my legacy, because ultimately, like, the only reason anybody buys a franchise is obviously the money side, but also the family side. And I think you touch on it in a big way. So if I were you, I'd play back those words you just said. I would go explode your website, and I'd put those messaging on them. Yeah,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so you have five now that are in the works. Are going to be multi-unit operators. Clearly, the broker community will sell multi-packs. And so now it's your job to make them successful on 1 and get them to 2. How has early progress been going?
Yeah, so we have the 1 open currently, and like I said, in Florida, and she's off and running. We have 2 in development right now, Texas and Wisconsin. They'll be opening probably late November. So we've got all systems and processes in place. Like I said, we just opened a 3rd corporate studio, so we've been testing a lot of different marketing for that, and so far that's been fruitful. So promising so far. So we just got to prove it out and launch this out.
On franchisee 1, has anything surprised you about their approach, about them opening, or you're like, hey, what if you just do this? Has it been anything that stood out as something that you've learned?
Yeah, it's always because in my corporate studio, I'm calling the shots and doing everything. And now you have a franchisee who, you have a tried and proven system. And if we just implement the system, then it should work. But everybody's different, right? And so going into different markets is another unique opportunity. So coming in from Ohio down into Florida, a slightly different demographic, but the same. So really our market to message with our marketing is really the thing that we're refining and really trying to tool to make sure that we can attract the ideal prospect into those studios.
Yeah, I mean, I find franchising fascinating for a million different reasons, but one is at discovery when a franchisee says, well, what's your average unit volume? I'm like, shouldn't you be saying what's the number 1 unit volume? Like, don't you want to be number 1 in the system? Like, And the other thing is, and I speak at conferences. I spoke at one last week where I'm like, just follow the system. You're paying a royalty and all these fees. Like, why would you even divert from this? And some of those early things will be interesting. Out of curiosity, from how you're supporting them, what is the weekly support structure look like currently?
Yeah, so we have weekly calls. I have a director of onboarding. So that's the thing that we've tried to do as an emerging brand, is to be overstaffed, if you will, with my team. So I have a VP of development. I have a director of our training for our training protocol and the exercise protocol. And then I have a director of onboarding. And then we have some administrative support on the back end. So we have weekly calls. We'll do monthly updates. Constantly, we have a Slack channel that we go back and forth. So our communication is always ongoing. And that's the thing. We want to over support as much as we can and give as much support as we can along the way. So as we grow our franchisees, we'll grow the team along with it to keep over delivering with that support level.
How long is that weekly call?
They're anywhere between 45 to 60 minutes.
Okay. I'm leading the witness. I will admit that I'm leading the witness. If I were you, because like the framework of what you're saying is this is possible. Let's transform you. If I were you, it would 2 calls a week for 20 minutes and just keep that as a part of your blueprint, because it's like it's already there. And then it fits into the DNA of how you're supporting franchisees. And you're going to have 2 touch points. And even as you grow, because it's not going to be able to do one-on-one all the time, but like a 20-minute state of the business this week from the CEO and a 20-minute support call, like build that into that same transformation. And I think you could have a good run. Yeah, I love that. I appreciate that. I'm stealing that for sure. Good. Great. Well, I mean, it's yours. I just borrowed yours and gave it back to you. So.
I appreciate that.
So now unit 1's opening. How fast do you want them to get to unit 2? Obviously, like you took 17 years to get your 3 units open, circumstantial, but how fast do you want them, and what do you think is responsible for them to get unit 2 going or unit 3 open?
Yeah, we tell them within we try to give them 9 to 12 months to get established and get open and especially if they're not new to business, right? If they've been a business owner before and they can borrow some experience in the back end and acumen, then we maybe get that a little bit quicker. But we're looking at a 9 to 12 month period of time from they open the first one to opening the second one. And then when they want to open up 3 or 4 down the road, we can expedite that once they get more experience in under their belt.
How long did it take you on your scale? Obviously, you took a little bit more time to get unit 2 open, but how hard or how long did it take to figure out how do I manage multiple locations when you can't be completely dialed into location 1?
Yeah, so I've always tried to run a self-managing company. So I have a manager in place that runs the day-to-day, but they do the majority of the training as well. And then they'll lead the team. And then I inspect what I expect from a leadership perspective, drive the leadership, drive the marketing, drive the advertising, have a monthly call with my managers and with my executive team, and then a weekly call with a huddle with my team for 20 minutes, actually. So that's what we do there. So, the reason it took me from 17 years to open up, throughout the process is because I have kids. I wanted to be a present dad. I didn't want to be one of those dads that's always off in business and not being able to stay home. So I really grew this on purpose. So the fact that I could have done it a lot quicker, but I take pride in being a present dad and being there with my family and traveling and doing these experiences and make sure I'm there when they wake up and there when they go to bed. So I sacrificed a lot of the growth in business for personal reasons. Right? I know a lot of other people, they just grind and they just knock them out, but I think they sacrifice from the home perspective, and I would never sacrifice that. So once we decided, then it was time to franchise. Then it was all on board.
Yeah. So quick comment there. I think what would connect with me as a buyer, because you'll have buyers at all stages in life and journey and experience. I think you're almost creating the 2 pathways. Like, and in my opinion, and there should be candidates that you qualify to open up 3, but you only award 1, and you say, look, I want you to have enough for a rainy day. I need you to have enough for scale. So you have that money on the side. Get 1 open, make sure it fits into what's important from you from a family standpoint, as it did me, and when timing's right. And then if you had an accelerator program that says, okay, look, you're whatever stage in life you're at, you want to accelerate this and build up a portfolio. If I'm being creative on it, I would also look at incentives on that formula that says, at opening number 2, we're going to give you X credit for marketing spend to get off the ground. Like I would think through the 2 journeys, because then it's not one size fits all, and you're taking your personal story and you're aligning it back to a buyer. So
that's great.
Okay, So let's say someone's watching to this point. We'll close with this question. One, the vision. Obviously, you want to impact lives, and the way to do that is to spread through franchising. But what's the vision? Where do you see this thing going, and what else do you want a candidate to know about the business?
Yeah, I mean, we are truly about making the improvement of the quality of life of the client that we affect, right, and the client that we serve on a day-to-day basis, because our clientele have typically built their wealth but let their health suffer, and that's where we come in as the anti-gym, 20 minutes twice a week. They don't want to go to a traditional setting, so that's where they come to MaxStrength Fitness. Yes, I want to grow this, and like I said, I believe I was put on this earth by God to serve as many people as I can and help them become the strongest version of themselves. So our goal is to award 24 units in 2024, so we're almost halfway there. And then next year, I would like to award 40 to 50 for the next couple of years moving forward, and by 5 years, have up to around 100 studios nationwide.
I mean, I commend that journey. I think you're taking on the right path. I would tell you just keep the governor on the culture.
Yeah.
I think your backstory is too important. So if someone comes in and it feels off, say no. That will eventually.
We've said no to so many people already, because I mean, this is a 10-year agreement. I'll be damned if I partner with somebody who I know is not going to be a good fit. I'm not in this for the money. I'm not in it for a money grab to grow as quickly as we can. So we will grow slow but steady, but we will grow at a right pace that fits the culture of the business and doesn't sacrifice the culture of that moving forward.
Out of curiosity, just because I'm curious, because obviously your model is impacting part of their lives, and I think your franchisees are going to be very similar. Like they forgot about their health, they invested in their career, and now they want to change their health and their lifestyle too. So I think it's going to resonate with them. But do you start thinking about, or have you started thinking about other complementary widgets because you thought about franchising on day one, if you franchise your franchise model into another category that's adjacent, has that been in the game plan at all?
It's not, but it doesn't mean that it won't be down the road. Like, I need to prove this out first. And so I'm just putting blinders on. I want to do one thing. I want to do world class, and it's high intensity strength training in 20 minutes twice a week. Once we get to where we want to be and we're at a sustainable model for growth, then I'll maybe turn my into adjacent field as something that's similar, but in the same path of helping people in the quality of their life through fitness and wellness.
I love it. I say this way too often, but I bet on the jockey, not on the horse. And if I'm a candidate that's listening to this, and I want people to watch your story before they get to Discovery Day. Like they need to know who they're buying into. But I'm betting on you, and that's the most important thing for franchisee 1 or franchisee 10. Like, follow your system, stop complaining, and just go for the ride, because you're drilled into where you're going, and I think that's awesome. So
I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. That means the world to me.
Well, for Jeff, I'm Nick. This is another episode of Meet the Door. Really enjoyed this one. Go take a look at MaxStrength Fitness. Take care, everybody.